Hello, Algebra 2, this is Mr. Ariano here to present you one video on function or not, FT1 standard. If you weren't in class or you wanted to maybe get an understanding of what we did, the idea is the definition of a function is every input has at most one output. That means that it can either have one or none, alright? So let's just go ahead and dive right into it. Let's go ahead and draw this table right here. Alright, so let's say I give you this table right here and I tell you, is this table a function? Is this table a function? Well, what you need to do to figure out whether this is a function is, well, let's look at the definition of a function. Every input has at most one output. So if we look here, remember x is our input. It's what we plug into our equation. So if we had like an equation, this is like a random thing, but if we have an equation, let's say 2x. Okay, our inputs are what we plug in. So we would plug in 1 into here, and then we would plug in 2 into here, right? And then this is how we get our y values. Now this equation is not for this table, but that's just an example of what I'm talking about. So x's are inputs, y's are outputs, all right? So if it helps, if that helps at all, then I recommend right here writing that down. X is input, y is output. Alright, so if we go back to our table over here, well, let's figure that out. Does every input x has at most one y? So if we look here, alright, let's look at 1. 1 has one y. So if we were to make a quick little graph of this, and 5. Okay, so if you look over here, 1, when we plug in 1, we get 2 for y. So when we plug in 1, we get 2 for y. So I'll go ahead and put that dot right there. Oh, whoops, sorry, it should be up here. So right there. When we plug in 2, we get 4. So we plug in 2, let's go up here, we get 4. Okay. When we plug in 3, we get 5. So right up here should be like a little dot, and we plug in 4, we get 2. Okay, right there. So if you notice, looking at this table right here, for every input, so 1, there's only one y value. 2, for every input on 2, there's only one y value, which is 4. For 3, it's only one y value, which is 5, and then for 4, there's only one y value, which is 2. Alright, so if you look here, every input has at most one output. That means that this is a function. Now maybe to help out, maybe we need to figure out, okay, how could this table turn into something that is not a function? So let's say we added another value, let's say 2 and let's say 5. So now if we think about it, let's go ahead and plot that 2, 5, okay, right there. So if you look, every input so the input 1 only has one output. This 2 to 4, so at input 2, when x is 2, our y is 4. Same with 3 is 5, so when we're at x is 3, we go up here at 5, and then 4 to 2, and then look, we have another added value. When our input is 2, our output is 5. But you see, this presents a problem, because if you look right here, 2, our input 2 now has 2 outputs. It no longer has 1. And you can see in this table, it makes sense. This input 2 has one y value, which is 4, and this input 2 has one y value, which is 5. Therefore, 2 has a total output of 2 values. So because 2 has 1 at 4 and 5, this table here would no longer be a function. Alright? So I hope that helps to distinguish between what is a function or not. It's every input has at most one output. If any input has more than one output, as you see here in this scenario with 2, it is no longer a function. So that's how it kind of looks on the table, and this is what you can kind of see how it would look like on the graph. Another quick example is if we saw this right here. Let's draw a circle. Alright? One last time, you can draw many of these. Is this a function or not? What do you think? Pause the video and take the time to think about it. Okay, now welcome back. Now, is this a function or not? Well, let's look. If we go to input 1, when our x is 1, let's label this x, This is y. When x is 1, how many y values do we have? How many outputs? Well, there's one right here. And if we keep going, there's another one right there. Therefore, this is not a function because our input 1 has 2 outputs, one right there, one right here. It's similarly right here, and when our input is 2, we have an output at 1, and we have an output what looks to be at like 3.5. Because our input 2 has more than one output, it has 2, it is no longer a function. Alright? So this is another example of something that is not a function in a graph. I hope that helps. Take care, have a fabulous day.